above the city like a ghost, a silver crescent slicing the night sky, lights blinking along its hull as if counting down to something I never imagined I would meet them face to face, never thought I would hear words that would shake me to my core. They descended in a chamber that glowed with colors no human I could name. The air shimmered and pulsed around us like a living thing. My heart raced in ways I could not control, and then the ambassador appeared, tall and fluid, its form shifting constantly like water frozen in moments of impossible geometry. It spoke directly to my mind, not through words but through feelings and images, feelings that made my bones ache, and memories I had never lived flash before me in an instant. Do you even know what your daughter is capable of? The words hit me harder than any bullet I had ever felt. I tried to speak, I tried to demand an explanation, but my voice was swallowed by the strange gravity of its presence. I had forbidden myself from contacting her for years. I had watched from a distance, I had whispered into the void, but it was never enough, and now they were here. They were telling me she was beyond anything I had feared or hoped. She was not just a child, she was an anomaly, a being whose mind could bend matter, whose thoughts could tear reality into fragments and remake it in a blink. And the ambassador's gaze turned towards me with something I could only call sorrow, or maybe warning, or maybe accusation. You must leave her alone. I stumbled back, the floor seemed to ripple beneath me like water, my breath caught in my chest, and I realized that the entire room was responding to my fear, my doubt, my love for her. And then I remembered the day she disappeared from my life, the day she turned and looked at me with eyes that mirrored the cosmos itself. She was 10 when it began, her drawing on the walls in spirals of color that no pigment should hold, the way she could move the air with her hands, the way the birds would follow her in patterns that made no sense to anyone but her. And I had smiled, I had laughed, I had been proud and terrified all at once. The ambassador floated closer, its form folding in on itself and then opening again like a flower of impossible light. We have watched you too long. It said, its voice a cascade of feeling and thought that left me trembling. Do you remember the last time she spoke to you? I did. I remembered every word she had whispered through the lock of my bedroom door, every plea, every warning, every secret she had entrusted to me before I had turned away. She said they would come for her, she said I could not protect her, she said I must trust them, she said I must not interfere. And now they were here, and I was the one breaking the rules, the one who had let curiosity claw at my soul, the one who had to face the consequences of a silence that had been broken. The chamber hummed and the walls bent reality in strange ways, and I realized that every second I stayed here, every thought I held onto became part of a chain I could not escape. Do you understand the choice you are making? I did not, but I nodded anyway. And then it happened, the first shock, the moment that made me question everything I believed. The ambassador's form exploded into shards of light that coalesced into her, standing there in the center of the room, my daughter, older yet younger, not human yet undeniably hers. She looked at me with eyes that burned like stars and smiled a smile that was both familiar and utterly alien. Hello, Mother. I could not speak, I could not move. The world had shifted, and I realized that I had never truly known her, not her mind, not her heart, not the limitless universe she carried inside. The ambassador reformed around her, as if protecting her, as if bowing to something I could not grasp, and then my daughter spoke again. They lied to you. My breath caught in my throat, the weight of betrayal crashing into me. Oh, the ambassador. Everything I thought I knew about the galaxy, about humanity, about myself was false. The people I had trusted, the governments I had served, the scientists I had listened to, all were shadows hiding the truth. She raised her hand and the room bent around us, reality itself folding into strange, impossible shapes, walls melting into light, and I realized that my daughter's power was beyond comprehension, beyond control, beyond morality. Do you see now why I forbade you from contacting her? Yes and no. I could not deny the love that had driven me to seek her, the fear that had held me back, the hope that had blinded me, and the anger that now burned hotter than any star. She looked at me again, her gaze piercing through my very soul. If you follow me, you will never return to the life you knew. I nodded again, because even knowing death, even knowing the end of everything, I could not leave her, I could not abandon her to forces I did not understand. The ambassador folded into itself and vanished, leaving only a whisper of sound like the echo of a galaxy dying. You are ready. I reached for her hand and the air screamed around us. My bones felt as if they were vibrating with the music of the cosmos, and then the walls fell away and I understood that we were leaving the world I knew, leaving the sun, leaving the stars behind. And in that moment a new terror gripped me, a new shock, a betrayal not yet understood. For even as I held her hand, I felt like the ambassador's voice whisper in my mind, carried us faster than thought itself. Do you even know what she is capable of? In my chest, my daughter, I realized I had no idea. Warm but electric, as if holding a storm, and I realized that every instinct I had about life, about danger, about the universe was meaningless now. She spoke without speaking, her thoughts a cascade of images and feelings, a map of things I could barely comprehend. Mother, we are not safe yet. I tried to ask why, but the words died in my throat. Instead I felt visions invade my mind, cities burning, ships exploding, stars collapsing in silence, all connected by her presence, all warning me of something I could not yet name. Do you remember the promise you made when I was 10? I did, and it was like a knife turning inside me, the promise to protect her, to guide her, to let her grow without fear, but I had broken it. Every day I had looked away, every time I had thought ignorance would keep her safe. She looked at me with eyes that were galaxies, my heart breaking at the truth that even now I had only seen a fraction of who she was. We are hunted. The word hit me harder than any physical blow, and suddenly I understood the betrayal, the mystery, the warnings, the silence that had kept me away from her. The ambassador had lied in a way that was necessary to survive, yet incomprehensible to the human heart, to protect me. They had tried to deceive me, to keep me from interfering, but the universe had other plans. Ships appeared around us like predators with impossible geometry, twisting in and out of known physics, their weapons a song of destruction that vibrated through the fabric of reality itself, and I realized that even here in the fastest ship I had ever known we were still prey. Do not try to fight them. Her voice or her thought or her presence filled me with both terror and awe. I watched as her fingers brushed the console and the lights around us bent toward her, will a storm of matter and energy dancing at her command. They want to use me. I understood then the depth of the mystery, the ultimate betrayal, the shocking revelation. I had not been summoned to protect her, I had been summoned to control her, to monitor her, to be the anchor that could prevent her from breaking reality itself, and I felt rage so pure it almost blinded me. No one controls her. She turned her eyes to me, and I understood in an instant what she expected of me, what she needed from me, my role not as a guardian or a parent but as a partner in something so vast, so terrifying that it made mortality itself look like a shadow. I nodded, and the ship responded, the walls bending in impossible ways, the floor shimmering beneath my feet, and I realized that even the vessel recognized her power and feared it, and yet it carried us. The first strike came without warning, a pulse of light that tore the void around us, a scream of energy that could have annihilated worlds, and she raised her hand and bent it back into shape, into nothingness, and I understood that the ambassador had been right. We could not interfere, yet even interference was impossible. She was beyond it. We were in uncharted space now, places humans had never dreamed of, dark matter streams bending time into loops that made my stomach twist in impossible ways, and I felt the betrayal deepen as I realized that everything I had been taught about physics, about morality, about life itself was obsolete. Mother, they will try to separate us. The words pierced me through every memory, through every hope, through every shred of love and fear I carried, and I knew they meant it. They wanted to isolate her from me, they wanted to weaken her by breaking the bond that had kept her tethered to humanity, and I realized in horror that I had underestimated the lengths they would go to. The first ship materialized inside the gravity well of a dying star. It folded into existence like a shadow with teeth. I felt the terror of entire civilizations in its design, the cruelty of calculated cold precision, and I understood then the magnitude of what we were up against. She smiled at me. Do you see now why I forbade you from contacting me? Yes, I whispered, yes, and yet no, because I could not abandon her, even knowing the consequences, even knowing the universal betrayal that stretched behind us like a chain of black holes and exploding suns. We fought then not with weapons but with thought, with reality itself bending to her will, shapes of matter unmaking themselves in seconds. I felt it ripple through me, a shock that left my nerves humming with the sound of creation itself. And then the true betrayal revealed itself. The ship we had trusted, the one that had carried us from Earth, was not ours, not fully. It was a spy, a cage, a subtle prison designed to monitor her growth and report her movements, and I realized the ambassador's warning had not been enough. The universe itself was conspiring to control her and use her as a weapon beyond comprehension. Mother, they will not stop. I knew it, and I embraced it at the same time, holding her hand and feeling the storm of her power fuse with mine, and together we became something impossible, something feared across galaxies, something untouchable yet vulnerable in the most human of ways. The chase lasted weeks or seconds. I could not measure time. In the regions we fled through, stars dying in silence, planets folding onto themselves, and she whispered secrets of the universe into my mind, knowledge so vast, so dangerous that I could barely comprehend it, and yet it filled me with awe and terror in equal measure. And then the final shock came, the one that would haunt me forever, the revelation that even she had limits, that even her power had consequences, that the ambassador had known and feared, that the universe itself had rules even beyond her command. And yet she smiled at me and said, "Do you trust me?" I nodded, because trust was all I had left, because trust was the only way to survive the betrayal, the mystery, the shock of knowing that the daughter I had forbidden myself from seeing was the key to everything and nothing. And then we vanished into the heart of the unknown, into a place where even light feared to go, and I realized with a clarity that was both terrifying and exhilarating that we were no longer human, no longer bound, no longer separate, but one with the universe itself. And yet the question remained lingering like a shadow inside me. Do you even know what she is capable of? I did not, and I never would fully, but I held her hand and I followed her into the endless dark, and it was enough. Like memory and prophecy at once. I could feel the pulse of entire galaxies beating beneath my feet, and yet the most powerful presence was still her, my daughter, a force that bent existence itself, yet carried in her a humanity I could barely recognize. Mother, she whispered, or perhaps the universe whispered through her, do you see now the cost of knowing? I did not, but I nodded because understanding came too slowly for survival, the shock of what she could do, the betrayal of those who had sought to cage her, and the mystery of everything that had come before crashed over me in waves. We entered a region where stars were being born and dying simultaneously, a place outside maps, outside physics, a place where time did not move in lines but loops, spirals, fractals, and I realized that the ambassador had chosen me for a reason, not just as a parent but as a witness, as a partner, as someone who could anchor her to something real. They came again, the hunters, the spies, the governments, the alien fleets, all converging into a vortex of light and death, and I watched as she smiled and bent the vortex back upon itself, a storm of creation and destruction folding into impossible beauty and terror. Mother, they will try to betray you again. I understood then that betrayal was not just a human trait, it was universal, it was survival, it was fear, it was control, and I felt the shock of it deeper than any physical blow, any loss, any grief I had ever known. The ambassador's words echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder. Do you even know what your daughter is capable of? No, I did not, and I never could, and yet I trusted her with everything because trust was the only choice left when reality itself could shatter in an instant. The first fleet shattered into fragments of light, their pilots screaming silently as time itself bent around them, and I felt the weight of every life we had touched, the cost of every action, and the enormity of what was to come. I realized then that she had grown beyond being my child, beyond being human. She was an apex of evolution, a force that could remake worlds, and yet she carried in her a flicker of the girl I had once known, a flicker that made the terror bearable and the betrayal forgivable. We reached the edge of the known universe, a place of silence so deep it felt like eternity, a place where even thoughts could be torn apart by the void, and she stopped and looked at me. Mother, it is time. I understood then that whatever came next was beyond fear, beyond hope, beyond morality. It was choice and responsibility, and the ultimate shock that I had never anticipated, the revelation that I was not just witness, I was participant, I was anchor, I was chain and release all at once. Do you trust me? I nodded because words were useless, because the magnitude of her power, the betrayal we had survived, and the mystery we had unraveled demanded more than speech. It demanded faith and surrender and the acceptance that the universe had rewritten itself around her and me. She raised her hand and the void responded, planets forming and dissolving, stars spinning into impossible patterns, matter flowing like water through her fingers, and I felt a pulse in my chest, a connection to everything and nothing at once. I realized the ultimate truth, the revelation that would haunt me forever. The ambassador had been right and wrong all at once. They had warned me, and yet even they could not comprehend the full scope of her capabilities. The betrayal they had hidden from me was necessary but incomplete, the mystery of her origin deeper than any galaxy, older than any civilization. And then she smiled at me, a smile that was both human and cosmic, and whispered one last thing. Mother, everything begins and ends with choice. The fleets that had hunted us, that had betrayed us, evaporated into light, unable to comprehend her will, and I realized that the universe itself feared what she had become, yet she carried a mercy, a restraint, a humanity that made her different from the terror she could unleash. We stood together at the edge of creation, holding hands, and I knew that I had been transformed as much as she had. I understood betrayal and shock and love and mystery in a way that no human could survive without madness, and yet I survived because she was my anchor, because I trusted her, because I had been forbidden from seeing this, and now I saw everything. Do you understand now? I did not, and yet I nodded yes, 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 because understanding was not necessary, survival was not necessary. What mattered was the bond, the trust, the shared pulse of power and life that connected us across stars and realities. She turned and looked into the void and smiled, a smile that could create and destroy a universe with a thought, and then the final revelation struck me, the ultimate twist, the final shock that would haunt me until the end of everything. Mother, she whispered with a voice that was both hers and the ambassador's and mine and the universe itself, I am not just your daughter, I am every choice you never made, every secret you kept, every betrayal you suffered, and every love you felt. I am the consequence of humanity and the future of everything. And I understood that she was both the end and the beginning, the shock and the salvation, the mystery and the answer, the betrayal and the truth. Do you even know what I am capable of? No, I did not, and I never could, and yet it was enough to hold her hand and step into the infinite with her, and the stars themselves bowed as we passed, and I realized that the universe had rewritten itself around her and me, and nothing would ever be the same again. The void closed behind us, the light of dying stars folding into new worlds, and I whispered in the silence a final truth. I do not need to know. And together we vanished into the unknown, leaving shock, betrayal, mystery, and the infinite possibilities of the cosmos behind us, and the universe itself waited.